Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really cool question. How do new ideas actually take root and grow? We're going to take a journey from corporate boardrooms all the way to the countryside to see how these little sparks of creativity can ignite some pretty big, important changes.
So let's start with this idea right here, because it's really at the heart of our story. This seam. It's that critical moment, That little space between a brand new thought and actually doing something about it. It's the gap between what if and what is, and that's exactly the space we're going to be exploring today.
To get to the bottom of this, we're going to follow a conversation between two people, Mira and Arav. Just think of them as our guides on this journey. And through their discussion, we're going to unpack three totally different kinds of courage and creativity that help answer that big question.
Okay, so the first place our guides looked was at creativity that happens inside places that already exist. This brings us to our first big idea, intrapreneurship. This is all about the innovators who don't go out and start a whole new company, but instead they drive change from right where they are.
Now, this is the crucial point, Intrapreneurship isn't about being a rebel or fighting the system. It's about seeing friction, like a clunky process or an unhappy customer, not as a dead end, but as an invitation. An invitation to experiment using the tools you've already got.
For instance, get this, there's a bank officer who realized that small business owners needed way more than just loans. So they used the bank's own space on the weekends as a classroom. Just like that, they turned a simple transaction into real, meaningful support for the community. And of course, that's great for the bank too.
And what's so amazing about intrapreneurship is how simple it can be. Here, a nurse on the front lines who uses this form every single day just used her direct experience to make it better. The result? A huge drop in errors and much safer patients. It's a perfect example of how the best ideas often come from the people closest to the problem.
And here's one more fantastic example. A plant operator just notices waste, suggests a simple fix for reusing pallets. And that one little insight, that spark of curiosity, translates directly into real money saved month after month. It just shows what happens when you combine curiosity with a bit of patience.
So, we've seen how great ideas can bubble up inside an organization. But what happens when people step outside those walls? Well, our guide's journey now turns to women's entrepreneurship, focusing on folks who are building something from scratch, often against some pretty tough odds.
Now, while women entrepreneurs can definitely face some real hurdles, like getting fair access to funding and networks, they also bring these incredible, unique strengths to the table. Their focus on relationships builds super loyal customers. Their ideas are often perfectly tuned to what a community actually needs. And they tend to build businesses that do good for society while also making a profit.
Take this story, for example. A woman starts a food business, not with some giant bank loan, but by building a loyal customer base right in her neighborhood. And she financed it through a community savings pool. Her growth literally created shared income and built up a whole local supply chain from the ground up.
This next one is so cool because it shows how tradition and modern tech can come together. You got a designer using social media not just to sell stuff, but to tell the stories of the artisans who make it. And by being totally transparent about her pricing, she built a business that multiplies dignity right alongside income. And then there's the power of smart, step-by-step growth. A goat farmer uses her first profits to buy just one cooling box, but that single investment lets her become a dairy collection point for her entire village. And that gives her the power to negotiate directly with buyers from the city. I mean, that's resilience in action right there. All right, for our final set of stories, let's head out to the countryside. See, out here, enterprise isn't always about disruption. It's about being deeply connected to what's already there, the local assets, the community knowledge, and the very rhythm of the seasons. So the big idea here is a total shift in how we think about business. Rural entrepreneurship isn't about copying what works in the city and just dropping it in a village. No, it's more like alchemy. It's about turning local stuff, seasonal know-how, and community trust into businesses that are perfectly in sync with the local tempo. So picture this. A farmer, instead of just selling raw millet for a low price, builds a small processing unit on some spare land. But here's the genius part. They only hired people during the harvest season. This fit perfectly with the community's existing work cycles, added a ton of value, and cut down on waste. It just worked. Or how about this one? An enterprise born from a really common local problem, solar panels that break. So a mechanic comes up with a solution that's perfectly adapted to the place, training local kids and designing a mobile repair kit that can travel by motorbike. This creates jobs and a service network people can actually trust. And in this story, you can really see the power of community. A group of women took a traditional recipe using ingredients they foraged and just modernized it. By combining it with hygienic packing, they were able to reach a whole new regional market. It's a model of growth that feels like it's building wealth within the community, not taking it away.
Okay, so after that journey through corporate offices, new startups, and village markets, our guides, Mira and Arav, started to see a pattern. And this brings us to the final and maybe the most important part of our story, figuring out the common threads that tie all these different worlds together.
This is the key question, isn't it? The one Mira and Arav were really wrestling with. What's the secret sauce that connects the bank officer, the goat farmer, and the solar mechanic? What is it that lets their ideas cross that seam from just a possibility into a real practice?
Well, it turns out it all boils down to these 3 practical things. First, having the freedom to run small, fast experiments. Second, having networks of trust that you can count on for support and even for your first orders. And third, having access to money that actually fits the rhythm of the business, not the other way around. These are the scaffolds, the things that hold people up while they take the risk of building something new.
And this quote from our guides, it just nails it, doesn't it? It's not about forcing some one-size-fits-all solution onto people. It's about understanding the unique tempo of a place or an organization and then building the right kind of support, the right scaffolds around the person with the idea.
So at the end of the day, the takeaway from their journey isn't just a list of lessons. It's a call to action. It's about becoming the kind of people who pilot new ideas, who support the innovators, and who actively work to make space for creativity to pop up wherever it might be.
And that leaves us with one final thought. Look around your own world, your job, your neighborhood, your home. Where is your seam between what's possible and what's being practiced? Where's your opportunity to build a scaffold for a new idea to grow?